me. So, welcome to the review session. Please listen so we can get this going. The test again, you have the take-home essay. You have to bring that in and turn that in at the start of class. The test is 50 questions matching in groups of 10. 50 questions multiple choice with 5 options. 50 questions in groups of 10, then 50 questions matching in groups of 5. Please don't talk. Okay, please don't talk because I'm videotaping so that other people can hear if they're watching the video. For those of you that are watching the video online, when you take notes on this, you have to include time references. So on the bottom of the video on YouTube, there's always a time bar. Look at the time when I talk about different things. Write down notes from that also. Specific notes for times so that you know what's being discussed. So like I said, there's 50 questions matching in groups of 10. Those sections are kind of mergings of various concepts. So it's roughly about 10 questions per chapter. So for example, if you remember, chapter 3 was on socialization. The test on socialization had a matching section on the front, all of them did, where it was different theories of socialization. Here you go. So, some of those theories of socialization included Freud's theories of socialization. What are the 3 parts of Freud's theories of socialization called? The id, ego, and superego. Id, ego, superego. So in that instance, what is like the selfish, wants immediate gratification part called? The id. What is the conscience? The superego. And then what's the person trying to balance the two? The ego, exactly. Another theory of socialization was Piaget's theory of cognitive development. How many stages were in that? 4 stages. 4 stages are, what's the first stage? Sensory motor. What's the key defining characteristic of that stage? Yeah, you respond to stimulus in your environment, exactly. Second stage. Pre-operational. What's the defining feature in that?
Symbols.
First use symbols, good. Third stage? Starts with a C. Concrete operational. And what's the key word for that? Causation, yep, C and C. And then the last one? Formal operational, and that is what?
Thinking abstractly and critically.
Yep, thinking abstractly and critically. Good. So those are a couple of the theories we talked about. Another one had to do with somebody that discussed moral reasoning. Moral reasoning. 2 different people actually discussed moral reasoning. One of those people was Lawrence Kohlberg. How many stages existed in Kohlberg's theories?
3.
3 is correct. What's the first stage called? Pre-conventional is correct. In the pre-conventional stage, what determines right or wrong to Kohlberg? Zach. I've got you off guard. Pre-conventional. Second stage then is going to be called what? Conventional. Third stage? Post-conventional. In the first stage, back to Zach, what is the defining characteristic of that?
You experience everything by pain or pleasure.
Yeah, what's right or wrong is based on what feels good. Very good. Second stage, Zach, pick the next person very quickly. Logan. Second stage, conventional. What determines right or wrong? In one word, starts with a R. We have a lot of them in school.
Rules.
Rules, very good. And then pick the next person quickly, Logan. Bree, post-conventional. What determines right or wrong?
A combination of both, and morals, your own morals and ethics.
Yeah, morals and values is correct. Morals and values, good. Chapter 4 involves some major concepts surrounding status and role. Status and role. You guys obviously can look up the definitions for status, status set, role strain, role conflict, ascribe status, achieve status. That's kind of the bulk of that section. I'm going to give you some examples, and I want you to tell me what it is, what it fits with the best. Okay? What does it fit with the best? things, when we did that Wordle, where you listed like student, soccer player, brother, all of that, each of those individual things, what would those be? Status. All of the things you listed on your sheet, all of the statuses would be called what?
Status set.
Status set. What is the term for the expected behavior associated with a single status called? Rule. Okay, all of them collectively, all of the rules for one status? Rule set. Good. Let's see. Abby, you had a question.
I was just wondering who the other person was for the moral reasoning.
Carol Gilligan was, thank you. Carol Gilligan was the other person. What was her research about?
Wasn't it the men versus women?
Boys versus girls. Carol Gilligan found that wrong was defined to boys based mostly on what? Rules. And to girls it was based mostly on what? Feelings and emotions. Good. So back to the terms with status. Again, a social position you hold would be a status. All of the social positions you hold at one time would be the status set. What's the term for the status that influences you the most? Master status. So for most people, what is their master status in the United States? Occupation. Is that true for everyone? No. So if, like in the Mean Girls movie we watched, if you were the homeschool kid that moved from Africa, that's probably going to be your master status, right? New student or Africa girl or whatever that status is. Okay? Make sense? If you're the only, when I went to high school, we only had one African American student for a while. Actually, in my whole high school experience that I remember. And everybody called him, quote, the black kid. Right? That was his master status there. So, okay. Now, what's the term for if you have a single status and all of the different roles in that single status are hard to balance? Role strain, S for single. If it's like me as a teacher, I'm having problems doing that and being a father, what's that an example of? Role conflict. Good. Okay. What is the difference between a moire and a folkway, Amr?
Mores are more like strict, while folkways nobody cares if you break them or not.
Well, I wouldn't say nobody cares,
They don't care
but
a lot.
yeah, folkways are more of like minor day-to-day rules for how to live that have, again, not as major social significance. But that's folkways, minor rules. Mores are the major ones. So let me give you some examples. I want everybody to tell me what it is. If you're just eating at the lunchroom here and you're talking with your mouth full of food. Folkway. If you spit in your friend's food. More. If you are at the lake and you are like skinny dipping at the lake. Like nobody else is really around. Probably say folkway. Okay, if you decide you want to skinny dip at the veterans pool in the middle of the summer. More. Okay. Let's see. If you shake everybody's hand with your left hand in the United States. Folkway. In other cultures, that could be a more because that's like reserved for wiping yourself. If you offer your left hand, it's like basically saying symbolically, I want to rub crap on your hand. So, not a good thing. So I think you guys get that example. I'm going to give you a few statuses, and I want you to tell me if it's an achieved or an ascribed status. Achieved or ascribed. College graduate. Achieved. College dropout. Achieved. Let's say cancer survivor. Ascribed. Yeah, you didn't want to have cancer. Good. I want to give you an example of one that could be either way, and I want somebody to explain why. Divorcee, or like a divorced person.
That's right.
Okay, that could be either way. Dan, go ahead and explain.
Achieved if you no longer have feelings for your spouse and you want to get a divorce.
Yeah, so if you're like, I need to get divorced and you chose to. Achieved or ascribed?
Achieved.
Achieved. If it was a shock to you, you show up one day and your spouse is like, I want to get a divorce, and you're really upset about that and still want to stay married, what would it be? A scribe. Very good. What's the name of an institution that's designed to completely change an individual's behavior? Total institution is correct. Logan, well, Logan over there. You want to give me an example of a total institution? An institution like a social organization, prison, good, or a mental hospital. I'm going to give you an example of something. I want you to tell me if it's a manifest or latent function. Manifest or latent function. In school, learning. Manifest, it's the intended consequence of the social organization. Good. In school, developing citizens. Do we want to make students to be good, effective citizens?
Yeah.
Is that part of our mission statement?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what would that be? Manifest. Matchmaker, like people meet their boyfriends and girlfriends. Latent. Good. Okay. What's the difference between the generalized other and the significant other? Generalized other and significant other. Savannah, generalized other and significant other. While she's looking for that, who has the sheet? Oh, it's right there. Is there anybody that didn't sign in the sign-in sheet?
People said
Yeah.
If you didn't, Bree will grab it, and then she'll give it to the next person so you guys can
somebody
stay.
sent it.
So, generalized, significant. Which one's more specific? That's a good way to remember it. Significant. Which one's more general? Generalized, exactly. So, the term significant other means a single person that's really important for your socialization. In pop culture, the term significant other typically refers to who? Yeah, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend. That person, in the sociological sense, could be a significant other. Probably would be for most people. But it's more than just that. It also would be your parents, maybe your brother, sister, best friend, coach that you're really close to, whatever. What's the difference between values and beliefs? Let's ask this question again then. Which one's more general, values or beliefs? Values. Values are general principles that people use to guide behavior, whereas beliefs are specific statements about those values. So the example that I used in class quite a few times was physical attractiveness, appearance. So the idea that beauty is a good thing, is that a value or a belief in the sociological sense?
Value.
A value. The idea that dressing a certain way or having your hair done a certain way or having a certain body type, whatever that is, that specific thing, that is beauty, what would that be?
Belief.
That would be a belief. Good. Who is the main person for the conflict perspective in sociology? He wrote the Communist Manifesto in 1848. Karl Marx. Good. So, one of the things, there's a section on that asks a lot about the three main perspectives in sociology. Give me one of the macro level perspectives, Christina. No, macro. SI is micro. Functionalism is one of the macro perspectives. Tom, the other one? Conflict theory, very good. And then the last one of the three main ones is symbolic interactionism or SI theory. That's a micro level perspective. So, which of those perspectives believes that you can analyze society by looking at it like an organism? Functionalism, exactly. Which one, the definition is basically looking at how parts work together to promote solidarity and stability in a society. That's functionalism again. Yeah, trick question. I asked the same question twice in a row. Or same answer. Yep. Which one looks at how people that are parts of groups which have power use their positions of power to exploit other groups? Conflict theory. Which one is going to kind of take a negative view towards society? Conflict theory. Yep. Which one is going to look at how small groups and individuals perceive situations?
Symbolic.
Symbolic interactionism. Good. There are a lot of other theories that are like smaller theories which are parts of larger theories. A couple examples of those include dramaturgy and ethnomethodology. Which one of those two looks at the world as like a play and us as actors? Dramaturgy. Which one has concepts like front stage, backstage, offstage? Dramaturgy. Which one looks at norms of society and tries to analyze things by breaking norms? Ethnomethodology. Good. Another way to look at sociology with the three theories is basically the scientific approach on how to do them. So it's like three approaches to research in sociology. The three approaches are critical, interpretive, and positivist. Critical, interpretive, and positivist. Which one of those is associated most with functionalism? Interpretive, positivist, or critical? Give me a break. Let's take this outside, I guess. Right? If you want to. Fire drill. We gotta go that way.
This is a fire drill. We ask that you evacuate the building, please. Attention staff and students, this is a fire drill. We ask that you evacuate.
Take a left, everybody.
Thank you.
This will be good for the video, right?
Oh yeah.
What do you think, Louis? Pretty good?
Yeah.
Don't put me on.
Great.
Can we just stay in the
You want to say hi? No, we can't. We get in trouble. Smells like popcorn. That's good. What do you think? Popcorn's a good thing?
Yeah, popcorn's always good.
Is that pretty funny?
Kinda.
What do you think, Klug? How are you doing?
So
Let's go this way. Continue the review session. It is kind of chilly. Should keep going over here?
Yeah, we go over there by my corner.
Fire drill in the middle of a review session. I didn't plan that exactly, but that's okay. All right, Amr, you want a video for us, please?
Yeah, sure. Be the cameraman.
Yep. You
Sure.
ready?
Record
I'm just going to sit and talk.
Okay.
That's okay. I probably wouldn't stand for a lot, though. But, okay, so we were talking about critical, positivist, and interpretive. Critical, positivist, and interpretive. Which one's most associated with functionalism again? No. Positivist. Positivist. Which one's most associated with SI theory?
Fire! Fire! Fire!
Okay, interpretive is SI because it's all about how people interpret social situations, right? I don't know. Probably. And then which one, I just said which theory is going to take a critical view of society? Conflict theory, exactly. Okay, let's go back to the theories again. I'll give you some scenarios. I want you to tell me which theory it's most associated with. Which theory is going to look at how, let's say, we all think about doing a fire drill during a review session. Like our small group is trying to understand it.
SI.
SI theory. Good. Which theory is going to look at how schools have like emergency plans in place to make sure if stuff happens that everything works.
Functionalism.
Functionalism. Good. Which one is going to look at how principals just have fire drills because they like to kind of push teachers around?
Conflict
They have
theory.
more power than teachers. Conflict theory. Okay, good. Let me give you a... Oh, we're going back in? There we go. Back in.
Can I keep?
We'll get locked out.
I'll keep recording, Mr. Slocum. It's
You'll
pretty
keep
fun.
recording?
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, just randomly people as we go inside.
Yeah, why not? We have now survived the fire. Going back into the building. Make commentary if you go.
This will be easy to see then if people actually watch the video.
Oh yeah.
If they don't say like fire drill in here, then they won't. They don't know that they did.
Feeling great.
Yeah, you get that on camera?
What?
When I did the Klug?
No, I didn't see it. Oh, I might have. I was holding it like this the whole time, so I might have.
Pretty sure you got it. Yeah, you got it. You got it, dude.
Oh, that's bad.
That's weird. But you can't see the faces, so hopefully they only see the arm.
Mr. Slocum on
Don't even know that. There's a couple of guys messing around.
It's in the middle of the review session.
I'm like, oh, your class actually brought notebooks out. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. Did you get video of it all?
Sorta.
What a loser.
Heading back into the building. False alarm. No fire. We have all survived.
Okay, let's go.
Zach, how does that fire make you feel? Don't think bad, John.
I don't know. It was interesting.
Interesting, Zachary.
It was funny because
Really
most
made
of
me
you
think.
did one of two things when I put the camcorder on you as we were walking outside. Either you did like peace, or you said like get that off me, basically. So that was a little humorous, but so let's continue on then. Let's just do a like people quiz section. So I'll ask you about a person. You tell me what they studied. Okay. So what theory they're associated, what they studied. Who is the person that came up with the term sociology? Comte, August Comte, good. Who is the guy that studied suicide rates and how social connectedness influenced suicide? Emil Durkheim, very good. Who was the guy that came up with conflict theory? Marx. Which guy studied bureaucracies? Yeah, Weber, but spelled with a W. Good. Weber like Vader. That's how I remember that.
Doesn't Vader mean father in German?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yes.
So they had that in plan the whole time in Star Wars then. Because when it came out it was a big controversy. But, what's the name of the guy that came up with the id, ego, superego? Good. Who came up with the sociological perspective? He described that as seeing the general in the particular. General in the particular. Peter Berger is his name. So, again, sociological perspective, Peter Berger, general in the particular. If you are androcentric, it means you're too focused on which gender? If you're androcentric, you're too focused on which gender? You got a 50-50 chance. Somebody guess.
Man.
Males are correct. Good. Which theoretical approach is tied to like economic theory the most? Well, actually, that's a bad question because you can make an argument either way. But I would say conflict or conflict or functionalism. Abby.
What is this whole like androcentric, like, does that mean that, like, what do you mean, what does it mean to be like focused on?
Yeah, so in research, for example, if you just poll men and then you try to conclude that this is what all people think, your research would be androcentric.
Oh, gotcha.
Because you didn't poll women also.
What's the one for women? Is there one?
Well, what's the prefix for women? I don't know what it would be. So it'd be that centric. Feminine centric? I don't know.
But that isn't an actual question though? I think that's what she's saying.
Well, if I don't know what the answer is for the female one, that's not a question. So, yep. But if I'm talking about it now, the other one probably is a question. Go ahead, sir.
Is McDonaldization gonna be on the test?
Yeah. Yep.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, I can. McDonaldization is basically the tendency to make things like McDonald's all over the place. So, yeah. So, yeah, let me explain a little bit in more detail. So, McDonald's was one of the first like fast food drive-in restaurants where you go to McDonald's in Chicago and it's going to be the same as in California, as in Idaho. They have the same menu, same process. The burgers are the same size. It's all about predictability. So it's basically trying to apply principles of McDonald's to other areas of society, other businesses, schools, whatever. So it's wanting to make things like a super bureaucracy and not allow humans to mess things up too much. So that's what McDonaldization is, in essence. Okay, let's talk about culture a little bit. In U.S. culture, what is our culture based on? Like from which people from which continent mostly? Europe. Yep. So we could be called Eurocentric. What is the term where it's like you should judge cultures by their own standards? Cultural what? No, that's if you only focus on your cultural standards. Starts with an R. Cultural. Einstein has a theory that has the same name. Relativity. Yep, very good. Who is the name of the guy that talked about the self a lot? He's got 3 names. Talked about the self a lot. He considered the self to be the part of your consciousness or personality that was self-aware, had a self-image. Nope. He's one of the main theorists for SI theory. George Herbert Mead, very good. There's another guy named Charles Horton Cooley that talked about something called the looking glass self in more detail. When he said that basically everybody has a looking glass self, what did he mean? What did he mean? Progniak.
It's how we think others see us.
Yeah, we believe about ourselves, or what we believe about ourselves is based largely on our perception of how we think others see us. That's Charles Horton Cooley. It's called the looking glass self. So to explain it a little bit, if I'm teaching and everybody's like laughing and smiling and super attentive all the time, I'm like, yeah, I'm a good teacher. That's what I think. In reality, it doesn't matter what the reality is. It doesn't matter that you're all just laughing and smiling because I'm crazy or I got some crap on my face or whatever. But if that's what I'm seeing from you, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty good. So another analogy, homecoming dance. There is a guy that would like randomly grab girls and try to dance with them. It was pretty humorous. So I'm not going to name who this is, and I don't want you, if you know who I'm talking about, to name who this is. But I don't think that he was fully aware that the girls were kind of smiling and laughing a little bit because they're like, I can't believe this guy is like trying to dance with us all the time. So in his mind, he's like, I'm a ladies' man. All these girls are smiling, but they'd do the like dance. I did it in class, right? They'd see it as him and then kind of dance around to a different area. So in his mind, he's like, they're smiling, they dance a little bit, I'm golden. He doesn't get that they're just kind of laughing uncomfortably. Probably be the best way to explain it. Okay. When they talked about socialization in the text, what is one milestone that they pointed out as being essential to be considered grown up or an adult? They talked for probably about a paragraph about research that was done. What was the defining thing that was like, people need this so they can be defined as an adult? Do what? Nope.
How you think?
Huh?
How you think?
Nope. It's like a life event. It's not maturity level or how you think. It's like doing something. So like graduating high school, getting married. What is the adult event? No.
Being able to vote?
No. Moving out, living on your own. Moving out.
Is that just like, that's just for our culture then, because like when people live in their houses their whole
Right.
life, like.
Yep, that's a good point. Yep, because other societies you live with your extended family.
Yeah.
Here's another question. We did a big activity on humor. What's the focus of humor? Like what makes something funny? Yeah, the difference in meaning that's being presented. The inconsistency in meaning being presented. Exactly. So let's stick on humor now. If you were to analyze humor from a functionalist perspective, what does humor do? How does it help society to function? What's its purpose? To do what? Relief what? Yeah, to help relieve tension. That's good. What else does humor do? Yeah, it could bring us together. It also provides a venue in which people can talk about concepts that would not be acceptable to talk about just normally. Let's do that same thing from a conflict perspective. What does humor do from a conflict perspective?
People talk about like racial tensions and stuff like that.
Okay, and they do that sometimes in functionalism, but be a little bit more specific, Tom. You're on the right track.
Like some black comedians make jokes about how white people are living.
Okay, so it's often basically a means by which two different groups can kind of fight amongst themselves, or like a powerful group can make fun of a group that doesn't have as much power. Good. If you guys remember some of the activities we did in class, one of them we did was MASH. That was the first activity we did, assignment. What did that help to show us?
Would it be like importances?
It showed us importances about what? And
Like-
that's still recording, right? Just want to make sure. Okay.
Like culture. Well, I was just thinking about like the houses and cars, like depending on what people thought, like. I don't know.
Yeah, if you were to look at all your results, you all had pretty much the same things. So you all, for jobs or in many instances, like who you wanted to marry, typically people pick celebrities that they perceived as attractive, right? So the other point was when you had jobs, you all listed things that were socially desirable. So the point of that was to prove basically how society influences even personal decisions we have, like who we think we're going to marry, what job, how many children we want to have, all of those things. Okay, give an example of that. Sorry, I'm just thinking a little bit here. Okay, let's keep doing the conflict theory, symbolic interaction, and functionalism. I'll give you some questions. I'm going to add a couple more in there. I'm going to add the W.I. Thomas theorem, and then I'm also going to add, I'll also add ethnomethodology as well. So I'm going to tell you a statement. I want you to tell me which one of those things it meets. So again, the three main theories: conflict, SI, functionalism, ethnomethodology, and then the W.I. Thomas theorem.
What's the W.I. Thomas theorem?
I'll get there. Okay, hold on. So, if I were to say that this perspective holds that if an aspect of social life does not help society to be stable or survive, that aspect is not going to continue, what theory would say that? Functionalism. Yep. If a part of society doesn't help society be stable or survive, think the organism analogy, right? Then it's going to go away. Good. Which theory would say what's perceived as real is real in its consequences? W.I. Thomas theorem. Good. Which perspective is going to help us to understand social behavior in terms of the tension or uneasiness that exists between groups? Conflict theory. Good. Which one's going to look at how individual lawmakers, when they're trying to pass a law, interpret the situation? Symbolic interactionism. Which one's going to look at how the groups that lawmakers represent influence decisions they make that might negatively influence other groups? Conflict theory. Good. Which one's going to try to assess how powerful norms are by violating them and then seeing how people respond? Ethnomethodology. Good. Okay. We talked a little bit about dramaturgy. Dramaturgy. That's the people are actors on a stage, all that stuff. Irving Goffman was the theorist that came up with that. Which of the perspectives, of the three main perspectives, is most related to dramaturgy? Would you say functionalism, conflict theory, or SI? SI. Why? SI is correct, but why?
Because it's individual role.
Both you have to. Yeah, it's the individual roles. It's focused on the individual, but it's also focused on how they play that role and how other people respond to that role. Exactly. Okay, let's do, remember we talked about groups. We had some clicker questions on that. So in-group, out-group, primary, secondary group, reference group. I'll ask you a question. I want you to tell me which one best applies. Make sense? So again, reference, primary, secondary, out, or in. Let's say residents of the state of Minnesota versus residents of the state of North Dakota. If you're a North Dakotan, the Minnesotans to you would be what? Out-group. Good. If you're the resident of North Dakota, people in the state of North Dakota to you would be in-group. Let's say the state of North Dakota as a whole, like all the people as part of that, what would that best represent? Yeah, a really, really large one, but secondary group. Good. Let's say your immediate family. Primary group. Your immediate family versus a different family. Like your family to you. In group. Good. Let's see. Members of the football team versus the Century football team. Century to our football team would be out group. What if you are a freshman in college and you're rushing, like you're going to join a fraternity, and you look up to the older fraternity brothers and you want to be like them? Reference group. Yep, so it's a group that you like judge yourself against. Good. We talked a little bit about conformity. We discussed things like Solomon Asch's research and Stanley Milgram's research. Solomon Asch's research had to do with the lines, if you remember. So we used, I think, Madison in period 6 and then Lewis in period 7 for our example. So what was the point of Solomon Asch's research? What did he want to assess?
Peer pressure.
Yeah, how conformity and group dynamics influence people's decision making. Did that play a powerful role or not?
Yes.
Yeah, people were very willing to willfully state the wrong answer just to not go against a group. How about Milgram's research? What did his research talk about? Trifter, you were in psych too. Do you remember that? Milgram's research? Okay. He had teachers and learners.
The shock therapy.
Yeah, I only discussed it a little bit, but the book, there's probably a whole column in the book about it. Yeah, it was the shock study. So basically he had a person that was a teacher, and then a person that was the subject, and then he had an expert telling them if they get a question wrong, you should shock the person. In reality, they weren't getting shocked, but the teacher thought they were shocking a person by pushing buttons. And they basically wanted to assess how far someone would go in shocking someone, like at least in thinking that they shocked them. So that's the scenario. Did Milgram find that people were willing to continue shocking individuals a long time or not really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. So in what instances, what could they do in that design to make it less likely that somebody would be shocked?
Well, they tried like having other people, like not like a teacher, but like just kind of other people at the same level as them. But doesn't that like make it worse?
If there are other people there that said, no, I refuse to shock the person, like say there were 3 of you, so let's say the 3 of you were the teachers,
Yeah.
and then we're trying to see, Trifter's the subject and you guys are in on it, and Darian says, or he's the teacher, right? So, and that you're gonna shock me. Now you all probably would be like, push that button, crank it up all the way, right? But in this scenario, Darian's like, no, I'm not gonna shock. And then I say, okay, Abby, are you gonna shock? No, I'm not gonna shock. When it gets to him, is he gonna be less likely or more likely to do it? Less likely. If both of you say yes, we'll do it, what do you think he'd be?
Didn't it say in like the book though that the people were like if the people were willing to though like they kind of I guess never mind. Yeah. Like
Okay.
if they kind of go in between, like if one person said to and one person said not to, they kind of like find like a middle ground. I think it said that.
Yeah, I guess I don't remember that specifically,
Oh.
but I do know that if you had other people saying no, don't do it, if everybody else was unanimous and saying don't do it, the person was very likely to say, okay, I'm not going to. But if everybody was like, yes, we should do it, the person was likely to say, yeah, we'll do it. Even if it was shock them bad and it's gonna hurt them, whatever, they'd still do it and go along with other people. Yep. Okay. There is also a study on death and dying. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is the person. If you remember in the reading, the stages of death and dying could be summarized by using the acronym DABDA, D-A-B-D-A, DABDA. So it stands for denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So to Kubler-Ross, was it like when people were dying, they just totally freaked out all the time? Is that what she thought? No. So what did she think then? What'd she think, Dan? Yeah, that they go through different stages. Some of those stages involve a fairly predictable manner of behavior. Good. Another thing we talked about was the dyad and the triad. Dyad and the triad. Sizes and social groups. If you add a person from a dyad, you get a triad. What does that do to the complexity of relationships there? It increases it quite a bit. Yeah. Why does it increase it so much?
Like more roles to play out, you could have 2 people going against one or one person going against 2.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Another thing we talked about with Milgram and Solomon Asch was Irving Janis and groupthink. Groupthink is where people tend to go along with the group even if they disagree with the group, especially if there's a really strong leader. What's an example of a historical event where like the president worked against groupthink specifically? Yeah, but which event with Kennedy where he like tried to work against groupthink? No, Bay of Pigs is an example of one where groupthink was bad and made them come to bad decisions. But what's an example of a historical event where Kennedy like intentionally tried to avoid groupthink? Cuban Missile Crisis, exactly. Yep. So Christina's saying what he did, basically he had like sociologists and social researchers say, how do we set up this group to make sure we make good decisions? And they tried to make sure that they did that. Yep. Okay. I went through pretty much everything a little bit. I'm going to leave it open for the last couple minutes for questions, if anybody has something they want me to try to address. If not, you're free to go. If you have any questions, you don't understand something, email me. If you want, I'll respond to your email. Come in and talk to me tomorrow. Mr. Hauger is teaching world history in the morning, so I can talk to you for a while, basically anytime from first period to 6th period. You
So
come in and
email
try to find me.
your school email?
Yep.
Okay.
No, she did.
Do you want me to stop this?
Let's leave it just a little bit in case somebody has some questions.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Do you want it before period 6?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions? You can stop then. Thank you. Go ahead, stop.
Oh,